Hi, welcome. It's Libby back in the kitchen again. So it's day 4 of my 28 days of going no supermarkets, no buying anything. I did a stash of shopping. I got a big bag full of fruit and veg from my local market on Tuesday. So it's Thursday today. So I've kind of started to use some of those, that stuff that I bought. And I've also got a lot of other bits and pieces all ready to be eaten as well. So what I tend to do the night before for the next day, I kind of look through my fridge and decide what I'm going to eat the next day, because then it saves me throwing food away. And if I have got quite a lot of veg left, I will make what I call the end of the fridge, or the back of the fridge soup or the bottom of the fridge soup. So I can just make that as a normal veggie soup and I can freeze it, and then again there's no waste. So we're going to go back to yesterday, and last night I had my risotto. Unfortunately I didn't have time to film it, there was a lot of stuff going on, so I had to sort of few things out, so I wasn't able to film last night. So I did I had my risotto, which was lovely. And so we're today. So today I got up, I did my yoga practice as I normally do, try and do it every morning. And then I had my lemon water with a little bit of honey, and I had a juice. I made an apple, carrot and ginger juice in my lovely juicer that I have. I then had my porridge, well it's not porridge, it's soaked oats, with grapes and kiwi, and half water and half soy milk. I still use the soy milk up. I've nearly used that up now, and then I'll go back to the oat milk. I had that, so I soaked that last night. That was really lovely. Had a nice cup of coffee, had a bit of a chill out, did some emails, things like that. And then I thought I need to start doing the video today. So time's rolled on and it's now the afternoon, as times are in this strange place that we find ourselves. I don't know about you, but I find the days go so quickly. You know, sooner it's like lunchtime, it's going to bedtime. And so yeah, it's trying to get busy and get organised and get enthusiastic about cooking again and enjoying using what you've got in your cupboards for the next 28 days. Right, so going now to lunch, and last night I thought, think ahead. What can I have for my lunch? So I make, once in a while, a big batch of pizza dough, and I chop it into quarters. So I've got 4 portions because the recipe makes 2 large family-sized pizzas. I'm not going to eat a whole pizza, okay? So I just make a half, or like a small portion. And then what I do, I make the tomato sauce. I make that homemade, and I freeze it in little glass jars like this. Okay, this jar came from a toothpaste. It's a toothpaste jar, natural toothpaste. It's got a nice little lid, metal lid, and I freeze it. They freeze really well, and I've got quite a few of these, so I usually put like maybe 3 in the freezer, and then I'll make 1 pizza on the day I've made it, okay? And then I'll freeze it. So last night I took out a portion of the pizza dough, a portion of the tomato topping, which is amazing because that's just about the right amount of topping, and I've got some vegan cheese in my fridge, so I use that. So I've made that already. So what's going to go on the top of this is going to be, it's got vegan cheese on. It's actually the applewood Mexican, quite spicy. I was like, ooh, that's quite nice and spicy. I quite like a bit of chili, but it is quite hot. I put some spinach on the top. I've got some here, which I opened last night to go on my risotto, some peppers. So rather than keeping those in the fridge, I should put some of those on the top. And I've made a little coleslaw with carrot, cabbage, so a bit of fennel, and some of the radish that I bought, the white radish. I can't remember its name. Some of you, if you can remember what the name is, I've not got it out here, but it's a white radish, and it's massive. It's like really, really big. It's really nice, really tasty. So I made the coleslaw, so I shall cook that after I've made this video. And so that's my lunch. Now going on to this evening, and I thought, what can I make? I want to make something with tins, so I don't have to soak things and cook things. I just use it as a canned dinner. And this is something I would make if I go camping. I will take all the ingredients. I'll probably make it up before I go, be perfectly honest, and then I can just take portions. But this is the sort of thing you could make if you're camping for, you know, for a week. You could take this stuff because it's so easy to chuck together. It's a one pot meal basically, and you can have salad with it or some cooked vegetables, whatever. So on the pan, I'm going to show you now what I've got. I'll just go through it. I've got onions. It says spring onions. I didn't have any spring onions, so I've used normal onions. Just take a note of these recipes because sometimes we go, oh, I can't make that because I haven't got any scallions. It says scallions, which are spring onions. I haven't got any spring onions. Oh, I'm going to have to go and get some. That's when we go shopping. And that's when we come back with a bag of, you know, 20 quid's worth of food and you go, oh, I only wanted some onions, which would have cost me 50p or whatever. Okay, so chopped fresh onion. I've got here 2 teaspoons of ground cumin. I've got 2 tablespoons of medium curry powder. You can use hot if you want. I tend to have the medium. In here, I've got a mixture. I've got some garlic, ginger, and I put some turmeric in. The recipe doesn't have turmeric in, but I like to get turmeric in my food, in my meals, because it's very good for you. So I've got turmeric, ginger, and garlic. And what I do, I make have the turmeric and ginger, and I grate it and I put them in these little jars again, or in a bigger jar, and then I'll decant it into these little jars. And this is the one it's been in my fridge. There's a little bit more there, so I can just put that in and then I can wash that up and I can refill it then with some more out of the freezer. So that saves me having to grate it every morning, or it's fresh there. Okay, I know a lot of people do, you know, freeze their ginger and stuff. So here I've got the juice of a lime. I've got a can of lentils. I won't move them because they're still a bit wet. They're green. I think they're green lentils. I've got a can of butterbeans. Now the recipe says chickpeas. Didn't have any chickpeas. So again, I thought, oh, can I make this recipe? I've never made it with butterbeans, so I'm going to try. It might work out fine. It might not. We will see. I've got some fresh leaves here. These are out of my garden. There's a few spinach that's come out of the fridge, but this is all Swiss chard and a little bit of kale, so I can add that to it. I've got 1 can of coconut milk, and I'm going to put tomatoes in. I don't tend to eat fresh tomatoes, but the cooked ones aren't too bad. These are cherry tomatoes. These came from Aldi. I'm only going to use half a can because it says to use fresh tomatoes, but these are cherry tomatoes, and I thought they'd be quite nice to use, and they're in a juice, so that'll add a bit of flavour to it. Some salt and pepper, some cooking oil. This is light olive oil, and some tamari, the soya sauce. This is actually free from, so it doesn't have any, don't know actually what it's free from. It's probably gluten or something like that. Okay, so we'll start. So I'm going to put the right ring on. Oh, should know by now, shouldn't I? It's my kitchen. It's always the same when you want to do this. So I'm going to put it on fairly medium high. So this pan is quite a big stock pan, which I use quite a lot. So I'm going to put about a tablespoon of olive oil. I'm not going to bring you over here because it's too much faffing with the camera. So I hope you can see okay. Might be able to bring it a little bit closer before it falls over. Okay, so I've got the olive oil here. Just going to heat the pan up a little bit so it's not, you know, going into a cold oil. And then we're going to add all the ingredients. So we're going to add, it's so easy. It is so easy. You know, a child could make this. So no excuses if you don't cook. And you go, oh, I won't be able to do that. I don't know how to do that. So basically, once the oil is up to speed, we're going to add the onion, okay? Or the scallions, as the recipe says. Takes me back to when I worked in St Lucia. I worked in St Lucia in the Body Holiday. I went there 3 times, amazing place. I was a yoga teacher and natural therapist for 6 months. And we'd go for breakfast and you'd have like a nice omelette or something like that. And they'd say, what do you want in it? Mushrooms. And then there was the spring onions, but they call them scallions because it's an American name. And I think it's also used in Ireland. I think they call scallions spring onions in Ireland. So, because this recipe is from the Happy Pear and they are Irish. So I think that's why. So just let the the onions just cook a little bit. Then we're going to add the ginger, the turmeric and the garlic. It says 3 cloves of garlic. The garlic was quite big, so I only did like 1.5 because I thought it'd be quite garlicky otherwise. Put more in if you fancy it. This is quite, you can smell the spices. And I like to use fresh spices when I can. I mean, if you haven't got ginger, you know, use fresh ginger, then use ground ginger. Use ground turmeric. I've also got ground turmeric in because it's something that's, you know, a nice staple to keep in your store cupboard. You can always make something with it. It's delicious. Okay, so that's cooking nicely. Now we need to add, and just check the ingredients. So then we need to add the tomatoes. Now these would be fresh. If you've got fresh tomatoes, use your fresh tomatoes. If not, these are kind of, like you say, cherry tomatoes, or if you've just got normal tomatoes. If you haven't got tomatoes, you could use some passata or even some tomato puree. It's just giving it flavour. Okay, so I'm just going to use half. This, I tell you what, this makes an amazing soup. It's really, really rich because it's the tomatoes are whole. Yeah, they're little tiny cherry tomatoes. So it says about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. It says 12 to 14, I think, in the recipe, or 10 to 15 cherry tomatoes. So that'll be fine, what I've got in there. I'm just going to turn the heat up a fraction. I think it just needs to come up to a little bit of a bubble. Now, because these tomatoes have got juice in, they're going to add a little bit more juice to the pan. So that's, we put that in, and then we're going to start adding everything else. So we're going to add the curry powder. 2 tablespoons. It sounds quite a lot, but it's mild. It's medium spice. So if you don't like it too hot, then use a mild one. If you like it hot, you can add the other one. And then that's cumin. It just say to serve it with flake chilli if you want to on the top, but I don't tend to bother. I think it's spicy enough as it is. It is really, really delicious. And the nice thing with Dahl, if I make it today and have it tonight, there'll be a portion left over for tomorrow for my lunch, and maybe another portion. So I've got a couple of friends who might get a portion if they're lucky. Never know, I might drop one at your doorstep. So I've got a couple of friends who are on this challenge, so they might get a portion of this Dahl. But the nice thing is, as I said, if you make it today and have it tomorrow, it tastes better because it really matures. I'm going to add the can of lentils. This is a full recipe. Sometimes I make it and I make half of it. So I've added the butterbeans, and then I'm just going to literally just give it a stir. You might need to add a little bit of liquid if it's a little bit, you know, mushy or a bit sticky. You might need a bit of water. I might do that in a minute. And then, oh no, we're fine at the moment because we've got the coconut oil. I think it's a bit dry, and that is why, because I need to add the coconut. So before I take this out, I didn't shake this for a reason. I've left it with the fat on the top, the coconut fat. You can actually use this, if you take it off, it'll be down to about there, and you can actually make it as a coconut cream. So you can blend it up with a little bit of soy milk, and it makes like a cream. So if you want to use it as a cream, then do that. And it won't matter because you've still got 3/4 of a can. It says a whole can, but I'm going to put it all in. So I just need to take the fat off the top. So normally I would shake it, but I wanted to show you the fat in it. You can get reduced fat coconut oil, coconut cream, milk, whatever it's called, milk. But I don't tend to bother. I kind of like just like the normal. I don't like these reduction things, you know, reduced sugar, reduced salt. Especially the reduced sugar, because it tends, because I'm a nutritionist, it tends to have a lot of artificial flavours in, and I wouldn't use it. The artificial sugars, really bad for you. So that's all blended in nicely. There's a little bit of coconut fat there, but that will all just go in nicely. Let it all blend in, and then I'm going to add my lemon juice. Okay, put that in. A little bit of pepper. Nice little bit of pepper. I like my pepper. A bit of spice. And some salt. So this is Himalayan salt. Actually, it's sea salt. Okay, and then we're going to add the tamari. And I'm not sure how much tamari it says. Oh, it's only a tablespoon. I like tamari. Just gives it a bit of like umami flavour. So I've got a tablespoon here that goes in. You can also just glug it in if you don't want to do it precisely, but I thought I'd be organised. Okay, and then you just let it cook. Okay, now because most of these things are already cooked, you know, the cooked butter beans, the lentils are cooked, the tomatoes aren't particularly cooked, so you just got to let it go through, and they just say simmer it for about 5 minutes. Bring it to the boil and then stir it occasionally to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. Leave to simmer for a further 5 minutes, and then you can eat the dal with, they say, with pitta bread. Now, because the butter beans are quite big, I might actually blend this. I'm not going to do it now, but I might actually give it a little bit of a blend so it's not so chunky. Because I quite like my dal a little bit more like baby food. But as I say, I love dal, and I used to go to London when we were allowed to go. I used to go to London to see my children because they live near London, and we used to always meet up. And we used to go to Dishoon, which is in I forgot where it is. I think it's near Carnaby Street. I know it's near Liberty. So we used to go there, and we went there last year for I think it was about a year ago for my birthday. And we had their black dal. The place is lovely. Once we can go and do these things again, make yourself an appointment and go to Dishoon. You can book, I think, if there's 6 to 8 people, but if it's only a couple of you, I don't think they'd like taking bookings, because basically people queue all the way down the street. But it's absolutely gorgeous. It's like stepping into India. It is really, really lovely. And the black dal, it's something else. You know, this is nice. This reminds me of the black dal. It's not quite got that flavour, but if you let it mature, because their black dal, they have a lot of butter, ghee and stuff in it. This is totally vegan, all right? It's got olive oil in, and that's only a little bit of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of olive oil in. If you're trying to cut down on fat, you probably could dry fry it with a little bit of water if you don't want to use oil. But this is breaking down a bit now, so I'm going to leave it at that, because the video is 17 minutes, and I don't want these videos to be longer than 20 minutes, because I think myself, when I'm watching a YouTube video, if it goes on for longer than 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, I'm bored now. And I don't want you to be bored. I want you to be inspired. So before you cook this, before you eat it, I'm not going to put this in now because I want to blend that. I would add the greens, yeah? And then to serve it, you can serve it with, as I say, you could serve it with bread, naan bread. This says pitta bread. Naan bread, probably I wouldn't eat it with rice because it's quite nourishing already. I don't think you need to add any rice or anything to it. But if you wanted to, you could have a little bit of rice. What I was going to say was, once you serve it, you can sprinkle a bit of chilli flakes on the top if you want to, and some fresh coriander. Now, I buy my coriander in the big bunches from the local supermarket, on the big supermarkets. I get a big bunch. I try not to buy it in plastic, and then when I get it home, I chop it. I used to buy it on the market, but I don't tend to go to the market at the moment. So chop it up into fine pieces, put it in a big freezer bag, and then you can just literally take out a handful and put it over your curry or whatever you're making. It's nice in soups. So it's a little tip, so you're not wasting it, because otherwise it tends to go mushy if you leave it at the bottom of the fridge. Some people put it in newspaper and it will last a couple of weeks in newspaper, but I freeze mine. Now that's about ready now, so I'm going to leave it like that, and I will have that. I'll have that tonight for my dinner. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you can make it and enjoy it. So I'll sign off now. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks ever so much for joining me. Bye bye.